Hey, what's up gamers? You have Tiger Chainsaw here. The PS3 was the first ever console that I bought with my own hard-earned money. I was in high school and I was working at a hospital and I saved up a couple of paychecks. With those paychecks, I purchased a PS3. And with that PS3, I experienced so many great memories and lots of really fun games that were received critically well and really popular. But I also played a ton of PS3 games that I would consider hidden gems that don't get talked about enough. Now that is what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be discussing PS3 hidden gems. Now if this is your first time on my channel, or if you just haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button to watch plenty of retro video game content and other hidden gems lists that I have created. Let's jump into this PS3 hidden gems video. The first game that I have selected for my PS3 Hidden Gems list is going to feature a kick-ass female character that exemplifies everything that female characters should strive for. I'm talking about Wet. Wet does everything right when it comes to female character leads. She's kick-ass, she's believable, and she looks good. I miss these types of girls in my games. But aside from the lead female character, the gameplay of Wet is really fun. You're going to be going from point A to point B in a level, and during this there's going to be tons of enemies that you have to dispose of. This is really kind of a combo fighting game where you score points and you become more powerful the more enemies you stack up at once. And you get to do all these really cool moves, you get different types of weapons, and it's so much fun to pull off all of these acrobatic kills. You can slide on your knees, you can kind of go in slow motion, and there's even a rage mode that paints the entire screen red and black, and it's just so much fun to go on a tear killing all of these enemies. Wet, I don't really know why it kind of flew under the radar, but it definitely deserves your attention. There's a lot of fun to be had with this game. The story's okay, I did not care for the ending, but the lead up to the ending is worth it. I think it's a very solid game overall, especially for those that love plenty of gore, plenty of action, picking up combo kills, and as I mentioned, a pretty good looking female character. Wet is a PS3 hidden gem. From a female character lead that I loved to a male character lead that I love and strive to be every day. I'm talking about Killer is Dead. Killer is Dead had all the critics up in arms because you play as a male assassin, but he's also a gigolo. Talk about living the life. Now the critics did not care for the side portions of the game where you go on dates and you can use X-ray goggles to kind of look at girls and ogle them, but I think that just adds a certain charm to this game. Aside from the gigolo missions, you're actually going to be taking part in a pretty interesting story. I loved the environments. For instance, there's this really cool level where you're playing in an Alice in Wonderland themed dollhouse, and all of the enemies and all of the characters are just really over the top. There is a little bit of a difficulty curve when it comes to all the action. You need to know how to control Mondo to effectively kill all of these enemies, but it was a lot of fun to learn that, and it was just really interesting to make it through each level, and it just kept me on the edge of my seat of where I was going to end up next. I'm not going to spoil this game, but the ending is pretty crazy on where you end up. Now this was made by one of my favorite video game developers, Grasshopper Manufacturer. I think they do a lot of really cool games, and Killer is Dead kind of flew under the radar for all the other games in their library. If you want over-the-top violence, really mesmerizing levels, really cool boss fights, and yes, gigolo side missions, definitely check out Killer is Dead. If you love watching PS3 Hidden Gems videos, Well, I guarantee this next video game is on every single one of those lists. That's gonna be 3D Dot Heroes. Yes, every single YouTuber that loves the PS3 always showcases this game when it comes to PS3 hidden gems, but that's for good reason, because it really is a hidden gem. When I played this game, I was hooked right from the start with the music. The music encapsulates you and puts you in this adventure mode. But as you'll notice, this is very Zelda-esque, but it's old school Zelda. It feels like an 8-bit game, but just in a 3D version of it. With that comes extremely unique visuals and really satisfying combat. I really enjoyed seeing how the sword that you get grows in power and length and girth, and it really helps cut down all the enemies on your adventure. There's tons of dungeons to explore, there's lots of secrets to find, and overall this is an excellent and unique adventure game. 3D Dot Heroes is a hidden gem, but maybe it's not anymore because so many people are talking about this cult classic. If you haven't yet, go check out 3D Dot Heroes, but I'm gonna warn you, it is getting a little bit pricey. This is a really good game and it is worth that $50 to $60 that it goes for. Let's talk about a PS3 game that is a sequel to a Wii game. That's going to be Anarchy Reigns. I don't think it's a direct sequel, but it does take place in the Mad World universe. You'll recognize some characters from the original Wii game, but Anarchy Reigns is a very good follow-up. In this game, there are tons of exaggerated character designs, hilariously terrible dialogue, mind-numbing button mashing, and guess what? I loved it all. To me, Anarchy Reigns is kind of a throwback in terms of gameplay. You're presented with a cinematic intro video, and you're allowed to choose your character in which to play with. This is a beat 'em up through and through. You'll go through these areas and you'll find all these enemies that you have to beat up and kill, and that will end up leading to a boss fight. It's just dumb fun. I really don't hear a lot of people talk about this game, and I don't really know why. I don't know if maybe it was too repetitive or if they didn't like the character designs, but I loved all of that. It was a very good game that you can just kind of unplug your mind and get into and just have fun with it. There's 24 missions to beat, it's over 4 different worlds, and there's lots of different enemies to kick your butt. But in order to beat these enemies, you need to button mash. I'm not joking. You can hit square probably 50 times in a fight and you'll do just fine. I know it's not the most challenging game, but Anarchy Reigns is a beat 'em up fan's wet dream. This is a pretty cool game that you should check out, and the best part, it's like $10. So go get it in your collection. You want to know what I love? Discovering new games from my friends. So I'm going to be discussing a game that a friend introduced me to, and I was hooked. That's going to be Blur. Blur is a racing game that I discovered after I was staying at a friend's house over the weekend, and he asked me if I'd played it before, and I said no, I've actually never heard of it. He put it in, and we played it for like 8 hours straight. It was so much fun. So Blur is an arcade racer, and it reminds me a lot of NASCAR Rumble on the PS1, but if you want a term that everyone's going to understand, I'd compare it to Mario Kart, just with realistic cars. You're going to get all of the super fun power-ups and weapons as you race all of your opponents. The sound effects I thought were really good, the cars look great, they handle well, and when you take damage, it actually shows up physically on your car. I always love that in my racing games. It's just an overall fun game to get into the zone when you're speeding down the track. And speeding on tracks, there's a couple of them that really look great in this, and there's a good variety overall. This was one of the best couch multiplayer games on the PS3, and if you're a racing fan, especially if you love arcade racers, this is a must-have in your collection. Blur is a ton of fun, and to me, it's a hidden gem. I've talked a lot about character designs in this video. Well, this next game might have the most bizarre character designs I have ever seen. I'm talking about Dragon's Crown. The character designs are insane, and that's why I checked out this game, and I'm happy I did. But I gotta warn you guys, this is a tough game. There's a lot to learn, and the difficulty curve is not forgiving. But the cool thing is that this is a multiplayer game that you can play with a friend, and so you guys can both struggle together. Once you get a grasp on this game and how it works, it can be a lot of fun. What really sticks out is the artwork, and the graphical style is just beautiful. But don't let that fool you, this is a brutal beat-em-up side-scrolling game. There's tons of different enemies, big boss fights, and you just never know what's going to be around the corner. Now, Dragon's Crown does have a cool feature where you can pick out different characters to suit your different playstyle, and each character is customizable from their weapons, their shields, their armor. There's lots of different things to change about your character to help give you the edge, and you'll need the edge. Dragon's Crown is a tough game, it's satisfying, and it's a PS3 hidden gem. Let's talk about a PS3 game that has not left the PS3. I know it's surprising, it seems like every single game gets a remaster or a port, but this one hasn't. It's still stuck on the PS3 for now. That's right, I'm talking about Yakuza Dead Souls. It's Yakuza, but with zombies. Some of your favorite characters in the series are going to be in this game, and it's tough to believe that Yakuza does have a hidden gem since this series has just exploded in popularity, but it is the black sheep and it's quite good. You're gonna have that signature humor, the weird typical Yakuza elements in this game, but just lots and lots and lots of zombies. But with that comes a ton of action and a ton of different ways to kill the zombies as you make your way through the game. It can be a challenge, you don't want to get caught in the zombie hordes or get surrounded, but if you love the Yakuza series, you definitely need to check this game out. Don't go into it thinking that you're going to get another great, masterful Yakuza game. Put the bar a little bit lower than that, and you're going to have a great time with this. Killing the zombies can be a little bit repetitive, but it's worth it to see your favorite characters in the Yakuza world deal with a zombie apocalypse. You know, it always sucks when developers close, but this developer gave us one last awesome game before they shut down. I'm talking about the Saboteur that was made by Pandemic Studios, and unfortunately, it was their last game. This is a World War II sandbox game, and it's got tons of different elements like stealth, driving, and of course, shooting tons of Nazis. Something that I really liked about this game was the color-coded areas. If you're in a black and white area, you know it's controlled by the Nazis. It kind of added an extra layer, signaling to you that you are in a danger zone and you need to be careful. With this sandbox style game, there's a lot of fun missions. And while the game is a little rough around the edges with some minor inconveniences, overall it's a solid game that I think a lot of people missed out on. The colors in this game really pop, and like I said, when you're in the Nazi-controlled areas, it's just so much fun to spill their blood because the blood clashes with the black and white style of the area. It looks really good, and the gunplay in this game is pretty solid. How about we discuss a story-driven PS3 hidden gem? Enslaved: Odyssey to the West is an awesome sci-fi tale set in a post-apocalyptic world. It's got one of the better stories for the generation of the PS3, and the environments that are in the game are really fun to explore. Now, the gameplay can be a little bit annoying with the character controls, but overall, don't let that stop you from experiencing this journey. And I do have to warn you, it can take a while to get going in this game, but once you do, it really picks up and it really hooks you. So stick with it and you will be rewarded with a great experience. Now, one of the most impressive things at the time for this game was the animation of the characters and how real it looked. It's very charming, and back then, this was a real treat. Overall, Enslaved is a very solid action platforming game that has a great story for you to enjoy. Alright, as I wrap up this list of PS3 hidden gems, let's talk about the newest one that I have found in my library. That's going to be Mini Ninjas, and this looks so generic. It has a terrible cover, and it reminds me of some crappy Pixar movie or some crappy Disney movie. They all tend to blend together now. But I'm happy to report that Mini Ninjas is none of that. In fact, it's a pretty fun action game. It's got great sound effects and background music that really sets the tone of where you're at. Now, the sound effects and the characters are pretty cutesy, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a kid's game. The action isn't that intense or complicated, but it's just simple fun. The gist of the game is that an evil warlord has turned innocent animals into ninjas and warriors, and each time you defeat these, they turn back into the innocent animals they once were, and they help repopulate the nature. So you're doing good by killing all these enemies. This is a little bit of a shorter game, but if you do want a shorter game that is just simple hack and slash fun, look past the generic vibe of this, and you'll experience a hidden gem. So that's my list of PS3 hidden gems. Which one of them do you want to play now, or which one of them have you already played and beaten? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, let me know some PS3 hidden gems of your own, and maybe I'll check them out. Don't forget to like this video, and of course subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me grow, and I know you don't want to miss any other hidden gems lists. Happy gaming, thanks for watching, and make sure you play a video game today.